Hello, YouTube. I am Vince White. I am an employment attorney, and on this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. We have a question here from YouTube user Mink. Mink is a very cool animal, by the way. Big fan of the mink in general. Great friend to farmers everywhere, in my opinion. Although not when it comes to chickens, but certainly when it comes to pests on the farm, rats, mice, voles, whatnot. Here in New Hampshire, we deal a little bit more with the Fisher cat than the mink. The invasive Fisher cat was introduced by our neighbors in Vermont. State of Vermont felt that the porcupines were eating too many trees, so they went ahead and got these animals called Fisher cats, and they introduced them into the wild. And Fisher cats are essentially giant minks. They are between double and 6 times larger than a mink, and are known to be capable of like killing a bobcat, like in the wild. And they're these hyper aggressive. I mean, it's a giant ferret, right? Like the giant, like a mink is like a big ferret, and like a Fisher cat is like 2 to 6 times the size of a mink. And yeah, they have bred and spread insanely, as invasive species often do once they've been introduced. And it's a bit of a situation. It's a bit of a situation here, and we're just like Maine and New Hampshire, just kind of looking at Vermont like, you assholes, like what are you goddamn hippies? Stop. And like Vermont does not have the best conservation record. Like they had a big sheep boom. They like logged their entire state. There's a lot of things that happen in Vermont. They kind of came late to conservation, as much as they want to like hippy dip it right now and be like, no, we're cool. We sell ice cream and we have micro pubs. Like, love Vermont, beautiful state, lovely people, but like their history on conservation is kind of like Australian-esque. Like it's like, wait, you did what? Why? What? You're gonna do it again? Like, like, which makes them poor, poor neighbors for a sleepy state like New Hampshire that's kind of very conservation minded, and Maine as well. Maine is also very conservation minded, and we're all just kind of staring at Vermont like, what the hell, man? What are you doing? You know. It's funny. I mean, it's all fun and games, except that Fisher cats will absolutely like be curious about going after humans. I don't think like a Fisher cat could like kill an adult human, but they could definitely give an adult human a very bad day. And I absolutely know people who are like hiking with like 22 pistols, little tiny like baby cartridge pistols, because they're like, well, Fisher cats. Like nobody here is like hiking with a gun because of the black bears. That's not generally a big issue. Um, or like we have like large coyotes in New Hampshire. Like we have two kinds of coyotes. The native coyote is actually quite large. Nobody's carrying a pistol when they hike for the coyotes. But I know a couple people are like, yeah, I carry a 22 when I hike because, you know, Fisher cats, pretty aggressive. Again, it's not like they would kill an adult. It's just who wants a giant ferret chasing you? Okay, let's get back to Mink's question. I digress. That was a 3-minute digression. I apologize, YouTube user Mink. YouTube user Mink asked us an amazing question. When is it too late to hire a lawyer? All right, 2 answers to this. General answer is never. It is never too late. You could be on the last day of your trial, and it might make sense for you to still hire an attorney. And the calculation there, the decision process is, will what I pay this attorney be worth it, because I believe this attorney will do significantly better for me, and that will cause me to have a higher chance of success, lower risk in my case, and a higher potential outcome in my case, right? So like if you're like on the last day of your trial and you're like, I think I might win this trial, but I think if I hired an attorney to do the jury instruction phase of this and the closing argument, I might be better off. And you take into account all the things like the attorney's going to have to get up to speed in the case, and they're going to have to really spend some time prepping and getting a closing statement, all these things together. And you say to yourself, okay, so I've arrived at a deal with this attorney, whether you're paying them hourly or on a percentage, whatever it is. And I think the amount that I'm going to pay this attorney, or could end up paying this attorney on a percentage, either one, is going to be worth it. I think it's going to help me. Then great, hire the attorney for the last day of the trial. That, like, if that is the conclusion that you made, if that's what you believe, then I say go for it, right? By the same token, if you're like halfway through your trial and everything's going well and you're like, I think I'm crushing this, I don't need a lawyer, then don't hire a lawyer, right? Now, I will caution you and say that most people who think they're crushing their trial are not at all. Like, there's a lot of people who, and I make jokes about this on the channel, but like, there's a lot of people that I deal with who are representing themselves who kind of word salad. There's like the New Zealanders and the Papua New Guinea and, you know, the ants. So clearly my case wins. What? But like, obviously I'm being facetious here, but like, I've had a lot of conversations with people where they're just like saying things and they're like, so obviously I've proven my case. And I'm like, what did you think you were trying to prove? Do you know the elements of your case? Do you know what you have to prove to be victorious on this case? Like, those conversations happen all the time. All the time, right? So part of hiring the attorney is having like an experienced professional who actually does this for a living, who can say to you, this is not going well. I don't think you understand what we need to get out to win this trial, right? Obviously, we're talking about the end of the case because we're talking about when is it too late, right? My advice to you is hire an attorney as early as possible. I heavily criticize attorneys in this field who tell you to file the EEOC on your own. I think that's a mistake. I think that is a mistake. I think you should hire the attorney as early as you can. I think the attorney should at every level be able to reduce risk and add value. I feel that strongly. I feel that very, very strongly, right? So I would tell you, listen, the earlier you can hire the attorney, the better. But it's never necessarily too late. Now, the second part of this answer, and the part that's going to annoy a lot of people on this channel, is if you filed your own case, if you're pro se in federal court, you're probably not going to be able to hire me. Probably not going to be able to hire this firm. Because we've just reached a determination, like, listen, we love pro ses, we believe in you, we want good things for you. But once you're filed in federal court and you're pro se, and not the EEOC, like we can definitely take over an agency case from a pro se. Like, we're not saying pro se people do a bad job at the agency level. But trying to take over a case in federal court that has been run by a pro se is generally going to be exponentially more work for the attorneys and exponentially more risk for the attorneys on that case, because there's so much you have to know and so much you have to do to litigate in federal court that even attorneys who aren't used to federal court, like you have a state court litigator or even just a non-employment attorney who's litigating in federal court, either one of those get into an employment case in federal court, you couldn't probably pay me to take that case, right? Like, I've seen some masterful state court litigators get in federal court and get sanctioned, like sanctioned, grieved, all the bad things happen to them because they just don't really know what they're doing, and it's, you know, it's hyper specific. There's a lot to know for federal court. So when you look at that and you're like, well, that person was a professional litigator. They litigate for a living and they still got into federal court and they got massacred, right? And then this pro se person doesn't litigate at all, ever in their life. They've never done it. And they come to federal court with no frame of reference and no wealth of knowledge about the field and no basic idea of like how to approach a case. And they start doing things and it's not going to be a recipe for awesome. That, yeah, no one's putting that in a cookbook and being like, this is the recipe for awesome sauce. It's not a thing. Like, it's going to be just a recipe for risk and remediation. You're going to have to do so much work to try to get the case back on track. A lot of times the discovery that's done by a pro se litigant is nightmarish, for lack of a better term. It's just not adequate in any way. Like, you look at it and you're like, cases are won or lost in discovery. in my opinion. I will say that, and I will hang my hat on that. And where a pro se has done discovery, like, you can't, I mean, you literally can't pay me. That is a factual statement. You literally cannot pay this firm to take over a case in federal court where a pro se did the discovery. It's not going to happen. I can't imagine the circumstances where it would happen. So, to answer your question, it's never too late to hire an attorney. But if you're pro se, if you're self-represented in federal court, don't try to hire us. Sorry. It's got to be up front. If this was helpful, like, subscribe, comment down below. It helps me to help more people just like you. And don't be discouraged. Like, call local counsel. Just because we won't take a case doesn't mean local counsel won't. Like, I'm not telling you people won't take your case. I'm just telling you we won't take your case if you're a pro se in federal court. If you have follow-up questions, comment down below. I will track the comments. I will try to provide follow-up answers. I wish you great success in your case. It sounds like you have an open case and you were thinking about hiring a lawyer. I hope that your case is a big winner. I hope that you find the representation you need or want, and I want great things for you. Good luck.